So, ni hao, everybody. For the ones who don't know, ni hao means hello in Chinese, or Mandarin, if you prefer. It's a word that you should learn. If you go to China, or should I say when you go to China, it will really help you to create like a good impression for the Chinese, which is a pillar to work with Chinese people. So today I want to talk a little about hardware. Like the name says, hardware, software. It looks like hardware is hard, software is soft, is easy. But I hope today to explain you and to show you that it doesn't have to be that way. So it can be simple, you can do it, and I hope to give you some tools to help you on that task, on that big thing to do. So my name is Tocha. I've been working and manufacturing products and hardware in China for the last 5 years for several startups. But my name is also Daxia. You see, in China, everybody has more than one name. They have two names, a Chinese name and an English name. Even for foreigners who go to China, you normally get a Chinese name. Either Chinese gives you a name or you find a name yourself. And this is important. Why? Because the Chinese names are not easy. Like calling somebody Hua Xinling or Li Hong Hong. It's much more difficult than selling Jack, Betty. So they I think they got like tired of us getting their names wrong. So they just decided to find some English names. So these names, they can be given in schools. Normally the English teacher will give you a name, or the people can choose their own name. And this actually goes very well with the Chinese culture, because in the past, people would have milk names in school, and when they would get bigger, when they go to graduate, everything, they would have a different name. So it goes very well with the Chinese culture. So because I'm talking about hardware, and when you're talking about hardware, you need to talk about China. And if you're talking about China, you need to talk about Shenzhen. So Shenzhen is a city on the south of China, very close to Hong Kong. This is a picture of Shenzhen in 1980. It's a small fishing village with around 30,000 people. People mainly live of fishing, so people are more poor. It's very close to Hong Kong, a big commercial and financial hub. And due to that, a man called Deng Xiaoping, which is a very important person in China who started the Chinese economic revolution, which now led to the China being such a big country, such a strong country in manufacturing and economically and everything. You can see like Chinese companies are everywhere. They're popping up, doing new stuff and challenging the status quo of all the world because there are so many. So Deng Xiaoping created the first special economic zone, which is Shenzhen, in 1979 actually. And what he did was he liberalized the law. So normally they lived in a communist system, they still do, especially a communist system. And he lifted some regulations, he changed some rules. For example, people could start private companies. People could do business, private business, which they couldn't on the rest of China. And Shenzhen was so special that you need a visa to get inside. So it was very, very much appealing for Chinese people who want to make business, make money. To go there, you had to apply. It was not easy, but it really worked. So after a couple of years, 35 years actually, this is Shenzhen in 2017. So it's a city with 20 million people now. So it goes from 30,000 to 20 million in 37 years. It's the largest migrant city in China. Why? Because of these opening regulations, everybody wants to go there and make business. And why this did happen? The proximity to Hong Kong was very important. It's a major financial hub and business hub in Asia. And actually, that was one of the reasons why Shenzhen was built there, because Hong Kong was going to support Shenzhen. It's about 30 minutes by car. You can even get in a subway directly from Shenzhen to Hong Kong. So the proximity of this big harbor and this amount of money was very important for Shenzhen to grow. Another important thing was foreign investment. So foreign companies wanted the cheap labor, cheap Chinese labor. At that time, it's increasing slowly. And they invested a lot of money. And this investment created big opportunities for Chinese people to build factories and to create the products for these foreigner companies. So the outsourcing of the work from these big companies made the factories were made by people. These people were just starting, so it means they didn't have much financial means. So what they did is they made small factories that specialized in specific parts. Like, I'm going to make a factory who makes LEDs. Another factory is going to make some power transformer. Another one is going to assemble everything and make a big screen. So this created in Shenzhen like an ecosystem that created this vast diversity of companies working with each other, small companies, easy to change, to substitute. So one company would close, another company would open. There were factories everywhere. Trading companies, because they manufacture, they don't want to sell. So they created trading companies. Trading companies would sell their products. So this created a huge ecosystem in Shenzhen that it gave him the title now, which is the Silicon Valley of hardware. Basically, around 80% of all the gadgets in the world are manufactured in Shenzhen. And all of this is because of the factory layers, of the lifted regulations, of the cheap labor, and this Chinese culture of, like, they want to make money. So, because they didn't have much, they just invested in small factories. Now in Shenzhen, who do we know? Like Tencent. I don't know if you guys know Tencent. Tencent is one of the biggest companies in China. They are owners of WeChat. It's like a WhatsApp for Chinese. It has 800 million active users per day. So it's a huge app. It's a huge company. Huawei, ZTE, all these companies were created and came from Shenzhen. More recently, DJI, you probably guys know, from the drones, also from Shenzhen. So Shenzhen allows the companies to create good products very fast. Another good example, Foxconn. You guys know this one. It's the biggest factory in the world. They have factories everywhere in the world. But the biggest factory they have is in Shenzhen. It has 3 square kilometers. Around 400,000 people work there. They have their own fire department, and they even have their own TV station. So it's the largest employer in China, the biggest, and they manufacture iPhones, iPads, Nintendos, Blackberries, PlayStations, you name it, they probably do it. Another company I'd like to talk to you about is BYD. I don't know if you know that company. They manufacture many things, including cars. They launched the first electric car in 2005. And if you go to Shenzhen, for example, now, most of the taxis are electric. This is something we don't see in Europe, and we don't even can't imagine the way that they evolve the technology that they can have access to. So, due to this increasing ecosystem, there's a very important place called Huaqiangbei. Huaqiangbei is in Shenzhen. It's the biggest electronics market in the world. It's around 1 kilometer long and half a kilometer wide. And this is the place where Chinese experiment stuff. So if you go to Huaqiangbei, and if you like hardware, if you like gadgets, that's like the best place to go in the world. They have everything there. Everything you can imagine. Electronic components, PCBs ready, gadgets ready, copies, mainly copies, a lot of copies. And this is a place for experimentation. It's a place to go and spend like a week, just a whole week walking around Huaqiangbei and experimenting and seeing what the new things are coming out. It happened to me many times. I go there, I see a product, I say, oh, this is a cool product. 2 months later, I see it in Europe. So it's a place where they test the ideas. It's very big, as you can see. It's around 7 blocks, and it's packed with small offices like this one. So these are all, each of these small stores, it's either a family-owned factory or a big factory. All big factories are represented in Huaqiangbei. And as you see here, the components, all components you want, you can find it there. The biggest building in Huaqiangbei is the SEG building. It has 72 floors. It's the third biggest building in Shenzhen. In these 72 floors, around 12 are packed with stores, and all the rest is offices. So you can imagine this is just one building, and you have like dozens of these buildings all around Huaqiangbei. And you can see here, like it never stops. You just go up and you have stores and stores and stores, and they sell everything. Everything from copied products, from finished products. The only thing it's hard to find there, or almost impossible, is proprietary products from startups in the West, like that they didn't copy yet. If they get successful, it's just a matter of time. So this hub of technology was possible thanks to one very important movement in China. And this movement is called the Shenzhen movement. The Shenzhen movement started around like in the 90s. And why does it start? Because these big corporations went to Shenzhen and they outsourced all the production. By outsourcing all the production, it means the factories, which were not big, had to outsource their work too. These outsourced factories would outsource again. So you had contractors and subcontractors and subcontractors. And everyone was specialized in one thing. So at a certain point, they start thinking, well, we can do this too. We have the know-how. We can do it ourselves. So it started the Shenzhen movement. Shenzhen means like mountain village in Chinese, and it's like connected to the bandits. Why? Because mainly they would copy. They would copy already existing products that were successful in the West, and they would make counterfeits, lookalikes. But they started first just copying, but then they thought they could change some stuff. They could make it better. So that's when they started experimenting new products. They would get like this example, they get an iPhone and they put Windows on it. Like, who needs this? But they would make a lot of things. And some of them, not many, but some of them would catch on. And actually many of them became big companies later because they could do this really fast. They could experiment. They put it in Huaqiangbei. They see it sells, it doesn't sell. It's a process that was only possible due to this huge market, this huge ecosystem that they had. So I like to call the Shenzhen movement is like the hackers of hardware. They would get the hardware, they tweak it, they change something they think it's important, and they just send it to the market and see if people like it. It's a very, very interesting movement, and that created all the logic that you have now in China. Like, we can get a product, we can change it, we can manufacture it fast, we can try it, it's not good, we change, manufacture again, etc., etc., etc. So at that time, Shenzhen was actually responsible for around 20% of the sales of the whole phone market. Why is this? Because Shenzhen was mainly focused on making cheaper products. Because not everybody in China could buy an iPhone. So they just get an iPhone, they put Android, it's similar, it's cool, let's sell it. A lot of people would buy it. Maybe when they have more money, they could buy the real one. So it was not that bad for foreigner companies. Although it ate a lot of their market, it also created this awareness in Chinese that I want to get there one day. Now I can only buy this, but soon I will get there. So these family-owned factories, these flexible factories, could make products in weeks. Like a foreign company needs like some months, like 6 months, 1 year, maybe 2 years to make a product. These guys could make products in 2-3 weeks. It's an incredible speed. So this Shenzhen had another very important part, which was intellectual property. Actually, they didn't care about that. They still don't. So intellectual property is the first thing I want to talk to you about in China and that you really have to understand. And basically is that they don't care about it. They don't, and they will not. because it's not part of their culture. They come from this Shenzhen movement, and this Shenzhen movement tells them we can copy anything. So I like to say when people talk about hardware and making patents, like, don't waste your money on patents. Use that money to make your product better, to make your product faster. They really don't care. They just copy it, you try to find it, the factory closes, they open another one. You can't do it. It's very difficult. So they see the ideas, not patentable, they are open sourced. Like everybody likes open source for software, why not open source for hardware, right? So that's their idea. They want everything open source, and the key is speed and execution. The guys who can manufacture it faster, the guys who can make it better, put it in the market first, these are the guys who are going to win. So there are other ways to protect yourself. I'm going to talk a little about that. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is Stickbox. I don't know if anybody knows this product. This product was created by an Israeli engineer. So he spent 1 year designing it. He thought it was a very cool idea. So he designed this product for 1 year. He was working on it. He went to SESH, he was on SESH, and then he decided to open a Kickstarter project. So he opened this Kickstarter project. It went very well. A lot of people got interested. But what he didn't know is that Chinese also have internet, and they also can go to the Kickstarter. So more or less 2 weeks after he launched the Kickstarter campaign, he went on Taobao, Alibaba, Chinese websites, and he started seeing his product there. He hadn't even ended the Kickstarter, and they were already selling his product on the market. And the problem is, they were selling it for $10 when he was selling it for $50. Of course, he got crazy. How is this even possible? He started to do what everybody will do, is, I'm going to go after these factories. He says it takes around 1 week to find a factory. And when he closes that factory, he tries to do something, 2 or 3 more appear. So how can we compete against this, right? They are so fast. So the secret, in my opinion, is you have to be smart how you do your product. Like when you open a Kickstarter product for such a simple product, which is basically mechanical with some parts, a Chinese engineer can look at this, and in 2 weeks they can do it. So you have to find other ways to protect your products. Now I'm going to talk about it in the next phase. So, but this comes to another thing I want to tell you, which is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding has this problem. Like, you want to make a product, you go there, everybody in the world sees it, right? How do you protect yourself? You have to go there and be ready. It's not just I have an idea, I don't have nothing, I haven't done my homework, and I just go there, I open a Kickstarter campaign, and after 1 month, I'm going to start working on my project, and I'm going to find the factories. I'm talking about hardware, of course. I'm going to find the factories, I'm going to make trials, see how my product goes, and then after 6, 8 months, I'm going to launch it. If it's a good product, it's too much. After 8 months, a factory is making already thousands and thousands of dollars with your product. These factories even used exactly the same design. They even put his face on some of the products. They were selling the product and selling, yeah, it's this. It's called Stickbox. Stickbox. And you could, of course, he was very, very mad. But what can he do? Now he sells the product. He still sells it. And he tries to brand it like, I'm the original one. Like, I'm the guy who invented. So you want to buy $10? Good, you can buy it. But I am the original one. He's selling. But of course, he's competing with China. But there's another brand who did something similar. They had a little more money, of course. But for example, GoPro. GoPro started the action cams business. It's very successful. They work a lot on their branding. A GoPro costs, when it's like $200. If you go to China, you can buy like almost the same. This costs around $25, $50. But GoPro still exists. GoPro is still there. Why? Because they worked on their branding. So this is one way that you have to protect your ideas, is you have to work on the branding. People know that when they buy a fake camera, it's not the real thing. Although Jack Ma, as you know, Alibaba, the founder of Alibaba, said once, fake goods are of better quality and better price than the real ones. And sometimes they even made on the same factories. And this is true. So to compete with this, you have to go for the followers, for the branding. Like people to be proud. No, I have a GoPro. I don't have an action cam. I have a GoPro. That's how they did it. And that's why now on their website they can sell a camera for 469 euros. Just because of that, because of branding, because they work on that. So this is one way you have to protect it. Although you'll need a little more money, it's true. But if you don't do it, somebody else is going to copy your product. Maybe they're successful faster than you, and then you don't have a product to sell on the market. Another way to protect your product is like this company. This is a company I work with. It's called True Care. What they do is they make a service for senior people. So they designed a phone. It's a phone that looks like for senior people, like hard keys. For senior people cannot use touch phones, so they need to make something very simple. They even made some extra devices, like a watch, a keychain, a home station you can put at home, put your phone there, and it makes loudspeaker, microphone. So how did True Care protect their invention? They made software. So what they did is they connected the phone to a platform. This platform is controlled by them. It's made in this case, in Portugal. The phone was made in China. You could find the factory and you could go there and get the phone. But as soon as you turn on the phone shuts down. So you can't really explore the device. So that's already a break. The second thing they did is they based all their service on this cloud. So they changed, for example, in a phone you can add contacts. You can do several things in the phone. They changed it to the cloud. You cannot do it in the phone. So in order for you to understand what actually the phone does, you would need to go to the cloud. And they don't have access to it. So this is another way they protect it. And there's a very famous company who does the same, which is Apple. What they did is they did a proprietary system. It's their OS. Nobody can use it. So what Chinese do is they copy the iPhone and they put Android. It's the best they can do. But they can protect it. Although Apple also have a very strong branding, so they are like playing on all the fronts. Maybe that's why, because they're number one. So, these are the ways you can protect an idea that I see. There are the patent way. You can go there, make patents. You can make non-disclosure agreements with factories. They're not going to respect it if they don't want to. And what they're going to do, you're going to go after them. They pass it to somebody else. They pass it to somebody else. You can't find them. So sometimes people ask me, what about the Chinese patents? Because Chinese are like now investing in patents. In my opinion, and this is my opinion, the Chinese patent office, it's inspired in the US patent office. And why they do this is basically a weapon. So they understood that these foreigner companies would come after them saying, oh, we have this patent, we have that patent, you cannot copy our products. So what they do is, okay, we create our own patents for our own companies. And when they start saying, oh, this is my patent, we show them our patents. So I don't know many companies in China who are worried about registering patents in China because they believe in this idea of open source hardware. So I think this patent is basically a weapon. And if a company would ask me, should I register in China, should I register in the US? I would say, do you have a lot of money? If you have a lot of money to spend, yeah, do it. You know, maybe it can help. But personally, I wouldn't do it. I would take that money and make a better product, make a faster product. Second big question about China, quality. And this is a main concern. People have this idea that in China everything is cheap and it's bad. It's not true. Well, not now, for sure. As you know, all the gadgets you have right now probably were made in China. Have iPhones, everything is made in China. So the quality is not really an issue if you invest on it. So how can you make sure you make better quality products? There's one very straightforward way. You go there. You go to the assembly line. You go there and you check what they're doing. You test every component. You ask them, where did it come from? Can I visit the factory? Can I see how it is manufactured? This is one way to do it. Another way that I think it's very, very important is you rely on the Chinese know-how. People sometimes tend, when they're going to make a new product, they say, oh, I'm going to look for all the components myself. But you don't know China. You don't understand China. You don't know how to deal with a factory, and you cannot look at the factory and say, okay, these guys are making a good job. So you rely on their know-how. You have to make this trust and let them also help you. Let them show you the way. Show you, let's use these guys. We've worked with them before. They're good. Let's use that guys. This is very, very, very important. Another thing I would like to tell you is the negotiation of price. Sometimes people go to China and say, oh, hey, this is cheap. I'm going to get a very good price. So they start pressuring the factory, pressuring the suppliers. But basically what they're doing is, because they want to make money, is they're going to go and find another supplier. Oh, you want $1 cheaper? Okay, instead of this $2 cable, I'm going to use this $0.50 cable. You're not going to notice it, maybe only in 6 months. So don't be so judgmental of price. Of course, always try to get the best price. But understand, if you pressure them too much, you may be making a problem for yourself. And then finally, of course, is testing. You get the products, you test them, you test the components, you test the accessories, everything you have in your products, you test it. So about this part on relying on Chinese know-how, there's a very important thing in China, which is called the guanxi. Guanxi is a Chinese word that basically means relationship, building your relationships. It's kind of a networking, but it goes a little beyond. So Chinese like to talk business, drink tea, but they don't like only to talk about business, and this is very important. If you go there and somebody invites you to go and drink some tea, talk about business, they're going to start asking you questions because they're very curious about our culture and about the West. You engage with them. You start building this trust. This is very important. This is building your guanxi. This is what will allow you to have better quality products, better prices, because they're going to trust on you. So never say no to invitations. It's normal you drink a tea and then he says, oh, let's go have lunch. Go with them. You know, make that. It's very important to build a relationship with the factory you're gonna work with. This is guanxi, is one of the main points I think I would like to pass here, because you have to. They're a different culture. You also can be curious about them and show them that curiosity. Like I told you, ni hao. You learn this word. You say, when you come there, you say ni hao. They're gonna be, wow, this guy is interested. This is good. Let's start looking at this relationship. This is very important. Don't forget about this. Next, Chinese English. Yeah, called Chinese English or Chinese English. It really exists. This sign is not invented. It really exists in China. They're all over China. They're not very good at English, although millions of people speak English, but they are 1,200 million people. So the communication may seem like a problem. For example, I go to China, I don't speak fluent Chinese. I know some words, but I don't feel that's a problem. And you don't have to be scared about this part of the communication, because normally companies who work with Western companies, they have somebody who speaks Chinese. It's not going to be perfect. Yes, it's not. But you can communicate. You can use drawings. You can show them. You can show examples of what you have. You can find a way. Use your hands. Use everything you have to try to explain them your idea. Still about communication. Chinese yes. Okay? Chinese yes is not a yes. Okay? In Chinese language, you don't have the word yes and no. They use like verbs, like, do you want to go drink a tea? You say, I want to go drink. Do you want to go out? I want to go. So they don't really have a yes. So that's why I think the Chinese yes is not really a yes. It's like they're saying, oh, I understand what you're saying. So when you hear a yes, like, be afraid of it. You ask them, yes, but when do you think the product is going to be ready? You know? Ask them questions that they don't need to answer yes or no. This is going to help you avoid big problems in the future. Also, you can use professional translators if you don't feel good. There's a lot of people who can translate meetings for you, and they can help you out on that. Personally, I don't think that's something necessary, but if you want, you should do it. So now I want to talk a little about the product manufacturing itself, so like the stages you have to do it. When you're thinking about manufacturing a product, you have to think beyond like the gadget itself. Like take Apple, for example. It's a whole experience. From the moment you see the box, you open the box, you touch the flyers, you touch the packaging they use. This is all part of the user experience, and you should not forget about this. You should pay very close attention to this, especially if you're doing a branding and if you're building your brand. This is going to be very important. So to make a product, what do you need? Very basically, you need the materials, the casing, the housing, where the product outside is going to look. You need the PCBA, and you need the packaging. It's very simple. It's no difficult. So the first thing you have to do is know what you want. I'm not going to talk about this like this is basic entrepreneurship. You need to test the market. You need to find if there is need for this gadget or for this product you are doing. You need to see different alternatives. You need to just see your product with real people, see if there's a need. Maybe try to get some funding or talk with somebody to tell if it's a good way or not. And yeah, basically that's it. So, next step. It's a very important step. It's when you start going to China. So you have this idea. I know what I want. You really must know what you want. Let's imagine I'm going to talk here about making new products, not something that exists. If it exists, you go search it, you find the factory, you ask them to change the color, whatever. It's a little more simple. If you want to make a new product, what you should do is find the gadgets that are the most similar to yours, or the products that are more similar to yours. And there are 4 places I like to use. The first is Alibaba. Everybody knows this one. It's very good because it has a lot of factories and they're putting their products there, their services. It's a very, very good place, but it has a small problem. Alibaba is very expensive. It's very expensive, and small factories, especially when you're a startup, you don't want to go to a Foxconn. You want to go to small factories. And these factories normally are not in Alibaba. So what I normally use is Taobao, for example. Taobao is like a Chinese eBay. It just sells a lot more, much quicker, and it has much more products. It's only in Chinese, but thanks to technology, I use Chrome, right-click, translate this page, done. I can read it in Chinese, no problem. I want to search, I go to translator, change from English to Chinese, copy-paste, search. Very easy. JD and TT Mall. These last 3 ones are all in Chinese, but they're very good because the prices are Chinese. And sometimes in Alibaba, especially Alibaba Express, you see already the prices are a little up because they go for the West. Second, very important, WeChat. I just talked about it, Tencent. Everybody uses WeChat in China. Actually, I saw a study that says around 70% of all the traffic in the Chinese internet is for WeChat. They use it for everything, texting, videos. It's like their Facebook, their Twitter, their PayPal, everything in the same place. WeChat and QQ. QQ is like the messaging for business. So if you're going to talk with Chinese factories, you're going to find them in these places, and then you talk with them on WeChat. They're going to be crazy. They're going to be like, wow, this guy, he's really serious for this. WeChat even has a very good function, which is you press the Chinese and you translate it automatically in the app. And they can do the same for English. So I use it in China. I go somewhere, I need to go to explain something to somebody who doesn't speak English. I just write on WeChat. I add their WeChat. We talk by WeChat. Done. Very good tool. Very easy to install. It's in English, so there's no reason for you not to use it. Then, after sourcing and finding the factories, you're going to start discussing prices, timetable. You're going to make a list of factories, and then you're going to visit the factories. This is very important. You're going to visit them. You're going to see if they really exist, and if they're not, for example, a trading company. It happened to me. For example, I was looking for an Android pen for a product, and I went to Taobao. I found a lot of factories that do it. I contact them and I asked, do you make the product? They said, yes, we are the factory. But they all had the same pictures. It was exactly the same picture. So I started doubting this. You can have so many factories. So I asked them, where is the factory? And they started sending me the location. And the location was always in the same place. So it was different companies and the factory is always in the same place. So what did I do? I get a taxi and I go directly to the factory. I go inside and I say, hello, I want to buy this product. They didn't even have a sales team. They only sold through trade companies. So there are various ways you can do this, but you have to go there. It's very important to go there. So let's imagine you found the factory. Now you're going to start working with them. You already have an idea of the price. Maybe not the final price because you don't have the components you want to use. So you need a conceptual design. It's basically how your plastic is going to look, your materials are going to look. And you need a PCBA. A PCBA is a printed circuit board. It's assembled, so It's basically those green things with components and schematics that you need. It's what makes the product, the electronic product work. And the conceptual design, the plastic, it's what covers your product. So you need this. You need to make this in order to make your product. Because when you're going to make your product, you're going to mass manufacture it. You're not doing prototypes. You're doing a real product. So you're going to have to make sure that you know what you want. You're going to work with the Chinese. And once again, trust on them. They know better. I see a lot of companies making PCBs with special components, and then when you get to China, it takes 8 weeks to order one because it comes from Japan or from America. So you rely on them. They know the local, they know how all the companies and where they can find the components that are default. This is very important. Sometimes people want to make like a product which is very beautiful, uses top-edge technology. Then when you're going to manufacture it, it's going to be so hard. And it's going to take like 4 months to make a mass production. So rely on them. Let them help you. Ask them questions. Do you think this component is better? Are there others? Can you give me a list? Can we get samples and test them? Do this work. There's a work of trying and testing. It's important because some of the components might not even work. So besides the plastic, the PCBA, you're also going to need a firmware. There are 2 ways normally. Either you have the knowledge to do this, and you can do it, and that's going to be cheaper for you in China. Either you don't have the knowledge, and it's okay. You can go to China, and they can do it for you. You can go there and tell them, I need this. Can you make me a schematic, an electronic schematic? Can you design for me a PCBA? Yeah, sure. It costs X. So many times I believe it's easier, and it's much better to make the conceptual design there and the PCBA because of this know-how they have. They're not going to choose components and materials and make difficult plastic things that it's very hard to manufacture. They have the know-how. So you should rely on them for that. So let's imagine now you have your designed product. You know how it's going to look. You have a PCBA. So it's time to make some prototyping. This is a very important stage. You're testing your product. After this stage, you cannot go back. Okay, you're going to start making tooling. You're going to want to manufacture it. So the prototypes, don't overlook it. Test it. Make several ones. Give them to people. Let them give your feedback. Because sometimes you look at the product, it's yours, looks very cool. Somebody else looks at it and says, oh, you forgot this. Very obvious. So make prototypes. There are many ways to do it. You have here companies making 3D printing. In China, you can do the same. There are a lot of companies doing that. You can make rough things. You can make things that look beautiful. I've made prototypes that actually look better than the finished product because the finished product is mass manufactured and this one was made by hand. So there are many things you can choose. Don't overlook it. Make the prototypes, test it. I have an example for you for the product I just showed you, the home station. This is the first version we did in the office. So it's basically cardboard. For the charger, we had already a cradle, a stand for the phone. We just put it there. We found a Bluetooth column with a microphone. We make some simple software. We tested the looks. We tested if it was good. And in the end, we ended with this. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to make prototype. You can do it yourself. Try it. And then you start building the product. Don't go all the way, all in, and then go back. It's better to go slowly, step by step, and knowing the steps you're making, than to go just running and then having to come back and losing 6 months or 1 year of production. Now, you have the design. Now comes the no return part. It's when you do the tooling or the molding. The molding is this one. It's a big piece of metal, very heavy. Takes a lot of money. Depends on the complexity. It can be a few thousands. It can be hundreds of thousands if you're making very complex parts. So again, the Chinese know-how is very important here. Don't make too difficult, so it's not too expensive after. This tooling allows you to make around 200,000 injections. It's, from what I can see, it's around 50% cheaper than on the rest of the world. So do it there, because you're not going to transport this in a plane to China. And they're probably not going to use it because it doesn't fit their machines. They didn't do it. So this tooling, once you start, it takes around, depending on the complexity, with more or less 3-4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. It's very difficult. They do the first tooling, and then they start making run injections. Rerun, trying. Themselves, they need around like 3, 5, 6 injections just to make what you want. And then you start looking at it and changing small things. But remember, now you can't change big parts. That's what you decided. If you want to change a big thing, you have to do a new tooling. You have to pay again. So that's part of prototyping and testing your product, making sure that's the design you want. That's very, very, very important. So now let's imagine you make the molding. You're happy with it. So you can start the mass production. This is the fun part. Of course, you need a factory who makes assembly. What you're going to do is you're going to inject a lot of pieces. You're going to make the PCBAs. You're going to get all the components. You're going to send them to a factory. They're going to have an assembly line. And they're going to start assembling your product. This stage is critical to be there. You have to be there. You have to see what they're doing. You have to correct them. You can be on the assembly line and telling them, look, you're not putting this like I want. You're not testing this the way I would like you to test. You're not testing correctly the Bluetooth or the GPS. So you can help them, and they are very happy for you to be there because they don't want to make big mistakes and then having the order come back. So you go there. It's good, it's fun. You're going to see your product coming out. And yeah, go there. Then, certifications. To bring a product to Europe or to America or anywhere in the world, you're going to need certifications. To make certifications, you have the CE, the known ROS, FCC for America, REACH is for materials, and you need a finished product, okay? You can do this before, for example, normally that's what I do before the mass production, because you need the final components, you need the final plastics and materials. So before the mass production starts, let's say it takes 3 weeks, 1 month. To make a certification, it takes like 2 weeks in China, you know, and it's much cheaper than doing it in Europe. And you just prepare 2, 3, 4 products. You send them to the lab. They make all the tests they need to do. They know how to do it. They make probably all the certifications in the world, except Brazil. For some reason, Brazil doesn't want them to outsource that part. And you get the certifications, you pay, it's cheap, it's fast, there's no big deal, especially if you relied on the Chinese know-how. They already know how to make things that are compliant with European rules or American rules. Now, you have the certification, you have the product assembled in China. Easy. Ship it. So you just get the product, you ship it. There are 2 ways. When you're discussing or negotiating price, you can negotiate SIF prices, which basically means the company, the factory, will be responsible for shipping your products. Or you can negotiate FOB prices that are, of course, cheaper, but you have to take care of the shipping. So this is a thing you have to decide on the time. Normally, I would say go for the SIF, because it has the insurance also included. And you don't have to worry about this. The only thing you have to do is they arrive to the customs, you show the certifications, you pay the VAT, and they deliver it to your office. And then you're ready to go. Just start selling. I hope you start selling before. Just ship your products to your clients. So, you see, making products is not that difficult. It's just a stage. You just go step by step. You go carefully. Of course, you have to learn. You have to try different things. But it's not like this big monster that people make us think. Just do it, because hardware is very important. Like I see so many people here doing software, but without software and hardware, they are connected. Like you cannot have software without hardware. You cannot have hardware without software. So if we have only startups in the software area, if you make hardware, you're in a bluer ocean, okay? It's much more difficult to copy, again, because people are afraid, because it takes more time. Sometimes software takes even more time. And there are some awesome products, and you can touch them, you can feel them. Like software, you have to look at it. And here you can see the product, you can touch the product. And yeah, it's very fun. I hope you guys go a little for it, like try it. And I hope I gave you some insights on how to do it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you very much. If you guys have some questions, yes, please, questions. Anyway, you have my contacts here. Yes. Have my contact here. You can go to my website. I have a direct link to my WhatsApp. Go there, write me, ask me questions. I'm very, very happy to help. Yes, please.
Okay, so about software, I'd like to know how is Shenzhen the evolution of software, because as you told, software is really important for Western companies, so they can't easily copy the product services. Are they increasing software quality and such?
Yes, good questions. They're very good at software too. Very good. For example, you have WeChat. WeChat is amazing. Like, I use many messaging apps, and I have to tell you, there's nothing better than WeChat. They have everything there. It's super well coded, very intuitive, can do so many things. When I talked about software, I meant you're trying to protect your hardware using your software. Like, you have something smart in your way. Like, imagine you have a band, a smart band. There are a lot of smart bands. And then you make a software that has smart algorithms, AI. Like, you try to protect it using, you're not only selling to the customer the hardware itself, you're also selling them everything that's behind, and that holds up your product.
Okay, but why aren't Chinese doing also a good product, a good like that Benz? I find a lot of them in shops here in Portugal, cheap ones, but the software is really bad. Aren't they trying to do the same as Western companies on software side?
These products you see are normally cheap products. So like they are the low level of the products. But you have very good companies like, you know, Xiaomi. Xiaomi makes great phones. They make great software. You have like Tencent I talked to you about, but you have DJI. They make good hardware, but they have all the backup of the software. They're catching up. The thing with China is this. Every time we go there and make a product, they are also learning and they are getting better. And the universities have more programmers. They come out, they learn the stuff from the West, they go there, and they just make their things. They're very good software people. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, and the last question.
Tell me.
About lower price of labor. What about automation, robotics? Do you think that can be a problem in Shenzhen?
Why I don't think it's going to be a problem is because they have the best machines. They have a lot of money. Actually, who makes better machines are the Germans. But if you go to a Chinese factory, all their machines are probably German. Like the good machines, they buy it because they have money and they can make big manufacturing. They have big trials. They make thousands and millions of products. They have a lot of interest in buying these machines. Factory which I worked just now, like 3 years ago, they didn't have one machine in their factory. Now they have machines that put the screws automatically, that test the radiations. So they are investing on that. The Chinese labor is still cheap, but it's not that cheap. The minimum wage is almost already 450 euros. So it's getting more expensive. But they have a lot of business, so they can have a lot of money, and they are also investing in these machines. And if the West also buys this machine, they have to fight against this ecosystem. Right? You cannot buy all the machines to make a full production, tooling, components, everything you need to do. So they have this ecosystem, and each factory is investing in their own machines for this part. So I think the machines are not going to be a problem. I think, it's my opinion, for China at least.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, it was an excellent talk, but a simple question. You explained the simple workflow, how to develop and manufacture something in China, but can you tell us about failures, difficulties, going to a manufacturer and when you don't deliver what you want?
When they don't deliver, yeah, it happens a lot. Yes. Like, but what kind of failures? Like,
I'm thinking for people history, for instance. On the beginning, he has several difficulties until he get the right partners to go through and make the product.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, they make two mistakes. One, they wanted to make a very advanced product. And when you make a very advanced product, you don't use the default components of the market. When you don't use the default components of the market, you need to make new components, new things, new technology. They are not used to it. They need a lot of runs to make it right. And I think their product was very different. They had e-ink, am I right?
Yes.
And it's not very common in China. And Huawei is actually working in one of themselves. And when they send it to the market, they need some time to get accustomed to it. Like technologies that I see startups using here, you go to a factory and you ask them to use that and they say, oh, that's not really mature, that's too expensive, I don't really want to work with that. And the second thing is Pebble had a lot of money because they had a lot of backers and they need to make big mass productions. And this is something that I like to tell people is try to go the smaller as possible. Because the first mass production is not going to be perfect. It's going to have problems. And they wanted to make a lot of products in one time. The factory probably was very happy with so much money. They cut down some prices and yeah. There's a lot of things that can go wrong, especially in the communication and because you don't know their culture and because they always want to copy and they want to make money. Yeah, I don't know really how to answer your question besides this. Did I help?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Anybody else? You again.
So about Pebble, I just saw recently there is a Chinese company that did copy Pebble and it just put on market recently in August. It's a copy of Pebble, but Pebble company went away, as we know, and so it is something strange because they just put a copy later when the company just died. The question is that the software is really bad, and I think the issue is that they can make products very fast, but they just leave them very fast as also. So if we buy a product, maybe some months later we can't buy anymore. Even if we want to support and make open source software for them, for instance, to support hardware, to support product because we like the product, even if it's a copy product, they just don't care. They just I have some of that situations where I was betting in a very good hardware, Chinese hardware, doing firmware for open source firmware. But the Chinese just...
they discarded.
Yes. And
but it was like a mass market product, a mainstream product. Huh? Yeah, they want to use their own programmers. Yeah, that's true. But that's our opportunity. Like they're going to be better at software. Like we have to get it now. If we are better at software now, let's go there, use their know-how, make the hardware, and make the software ourselves. Because they actually make sometimes beautiful products, like you say, and then the software is horrible. I know I've seen some smartwatches that I want to kill myself when I see the interface they use it. But you also have to understand that they're a little different from us. Like they like a lot of colors, they like a lot of sounds. It's really part of the Chinese culture. Like making their interfaces are a little bit different. But I agree with you, their software is far from good. But I think they're going to get there, and I just want us to get there first. Like we need to take the opportunity. Like go there. But I know a lot of programmers that work in Shenzhen, and they are very, very, very welcomed. If you're a programmer, you should go to Shenzhen. You should go there. Go to the factories. Show them your CV. They're going to be, wow. It's a very good place, and they have very, very good wages for people in engineering. Higher than here, higher than in Europe, because they have a lot of business, and they know they're not that good, and they want to get better. So they will welcome you with no problems at all. Should go there. So nobody else? Okay, so thank you very much, and hope to see you in China.